Okay, so let's think this is recording now. So I want to, I guess, present here. Um, I'd like to present the first version of my very first video ever to try to share the information that I found that concerns when the day starts. So people have said it starts at dusk. People have said it starts at dawn. Some say it starts at midnight. Um, I'm sure that the Bible has the correct answer if we will just be willing to look there and have the patience to try to understand what it's saying. So, without further ado, this is my explanation. We can tell, as I said just before, the scriptures have the answer. So let's check there first. Um, First of all, a lot of you don't have Enoch in your Bible anymore. And I say anymore because it used to be there. And it was removed. And you can go and do your own research and find out when and why it was removed. It says in the book of Enoch that it would be separate from the rest of the scriptures. Um, and we can verify that it does belong in the canon because we find it in the Dead Sea Scrolls along with all the other books that belong in the canon. Uh, I guess I can note that there's that pesky Esther that is just not there once again. But let's not go into that. So Enoch 71, it is canon. It was in the Dead Sea Scrolls. If you know who those people were who kept the Dead Sea Scrolls, it says in the scrolls who they were. It was John the Baptist group, the people who baptized Yahushua. They are the people who are exiled from Jerusalem by the Hasmoneans who came in before Yahushua came, right? Kicked out. That's why it says that Caiaphas was the high priest of that year. That is not a legitimate high priest. He's not a son of Aaron. It's not legitimate. If you go to Second Kings, and I can get all this stuff out, you go to Second Kings, and you'll see the answer when we ask Yahuah who should be the one who answers or the questions that we have regarding Scripture. And the answer in Second Kings, and I'll have to find the verse, but the answer is that the sons of Zadok, the sons of Aaron, those specifically, sons of Aaron from the line of Zadok or Zadok, those are the men who have the authority to answer the questions that we have about the Bible. And it says that in Second Kings. And I'll just have to find that verse for you if you're interested. Um, now, um, in the Dead Sea Scrolls, the writings say the authors of those books attribute themselves as the sons of Zadok. They call themselves that in the writings. They're not Essenes. If you ever heard of Rachel Elior, she does a lot to look into this. She has a speech that she did at the University of Chicago. You can find it on YouTube. Just search Rachel Elior, University of Chicago, and you can see her speech where she questions the narrative that is pushed about the Dead Sea Scrolls. So let's continue here. In Enoch 71, verses 14 and 16 is what I want to focus on. 14 says the day is precisely 10 parts and the night is 8. Now in Enoch 71, he's talking about the laws of the sun. Now, if you notice in verse 1, he does say that this is the first law. So, in accordance to what Jubilees says in chapter 2, the sun is the great sign that was given to be for the division of days and for years and for jubilees and for Sabbaths and for, it goes on. You read that in Jubilees chapter 2. I think it's verse 9, but I have to check. All right. So it says on 16. So as I was saying, in chapter 71, this is the progression of the sun. So throughout the year, we realize that when you get closer to uh, the summer solstice, right? The summer solstice, the days are the longest. And you can see that reflected in Enoch chapter 71, where he says, at the point which the day is the longest, the day is 12 parts and the night is 6 parts. But every time he's referring to these parts, which is why I have here verse 14 and 16 on the screen, is these parts are always divisible by 18, right? There are always 18 parts presented. Why 18? Well, you see, Enoch says that Enoch was the first man to write. And of course, he only wrote what the angels told him and showed him. And the angels are using a division of 18. And the angels are using that because obviously Yahuwah told them to do it. And then this is why Enoch records in values of 18 when he's referring to the day. So I don't know if my mouse is being recorded. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. We'll find out. But on the graph on the bottom right here, I have a kind of a a chart. It's a pie chart with 18 equal segments, and you can see how this is verse 14 there, where the day is precisely 10 parts. You see 10 white parts there, and you'll see 8 filled in dark parts. This is specifically for this part of time. So let's stop stalling here and continue. Um, so did my note here. This is this here. So there are 18 parts or there are 24 parts, right? You normally have 24 hours in a day. Uh, from the research I have found, you'll do your own research, right? You'll probably find more than I'll find, right? Everybody who looks at something, somebody will notice something, another detail the other person didn't see, right? Okay. So if you'll do the research, you'll find that the earliest record of people dividing the day into 24 segments of time comes from the ancient Egyptians. I've found other sources that say that the Phoenicians began it, and some sources say the Babylonians got it. And there's arguments did the Phoenicians get it from the Babylonians, or who copied who? Right. Nonetheless, these are pagan nations and not Israel, right? So what are they doing, dictating to us when we should divide our day, right? Because we're trying to come away from Babylon and put away all of the Babylonian traditions, every single one of them, right? And we don't know, it's hard to realize sometimes, you know, what all that entails, right? So I have here, for some reason, the angel Uriel told Enoch that the days are divided into 18 parts. So this must be the official measurement, and you can see that the 24-hour day seems to be man-made. I did note here for people confused, 60-minute hours, you have 24 of them. 60 times 24 is 144 minutes. 144 minutes are in a day, right? That 24-hour period that we're used to. This is the same amount of time that we're talking about. It's still one day, but there's 18 segments of it. And so since there are 18 segments, these segments have to be 80 minutes long, which means 1 hour, according to this reckoning of time, would be 80 minutes and not 60 minutes. So I hope that makes sense. It's trying to be as clear as possible. We're not adding or losing any time. We're simply dividing it into different segments. Okay? So here we go in Jubilees chapter 49, 10 and 11. Let the children of Israel come and observe the Passover on the day of its fixed time, on the 14th day of the month. Notice here it doesn't say the 15th, it says the 14th day of the month, between the evenings. And we'll come back, we'll find out what does this phrase between the evenings mean, because the definition is in the Bible, and we'll find it, and I'll show you, and we'll all understand. From the third part of the day to the third part of the night. For 2 portions of the day are given to the light, and a third to the evening. That is which Yahuah commanded you, that you should observe it between the evenings. Okay, so how many portions are we talking about? Right? It says from the third part of the day to the third part of the night. And this goes on, 2 portions are given to the day, the third part is to the evening. All right, so having a third part of the day to start at requires that we had to also have a first and second part to pass through in order to arrive at the third part of the day. Okay? Inversely, we also can see that the opposite has to be true, right? If you have a third part of the night, you must also have a first and second part of the night in order to get to the third part of the night. So if you arrange these parts in order, this is what you get. In the day, you have the first, second, and third part, and this is the Yom part, this is the day part, right? And then we have night part, Lila, right? First, second, third part. These are the parts that are described. It says in Jubilees 49:10, let the children of Israel come and observe the Passover on the day of its fixed time, on the 14th day of the month, between the evenings, from the third part of the day to the third part of the night. For 2 portions of the day are given to the light, and a third part to the evening. Okay, so let's see this. You can see that the third part of the day belongs to the night, and that the third part of the night belongs to the morning, belongs to the day, Yom, right? So you can see here that I've put the divider line right there between 2 and 3, the second and third part, right? And you're going to see how this all fits together. Because I haven't been able to disprove this with any passage. Once I found this, and you start comparing passages as this, and every single passage fits with this formula. Let's just, I haven't been able to disprove it. If you can disprove it, please show me. I'd be very interested because I can't disprove it. So, how do we know this for certain? So, Exodus 12, it says you must care for it. It's talking about the Passover lamb. Keep it safe and it's unblemished. Keep it separate in a safe spot until the 14th day of the month, when the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel will slaughter the lambs at twilight. And so when is twilight, right? The Hebrew word here is ha'arevim, right? This is the evening. Arevim is his plural evenings, but it's talking about the evening, right? Because there's multiple people slaughtering all of their lambs all at the same time, so it has to be plural grammatically. Okay, so it is one evening. Okay, the name for that evening, all right, here it's in Hebrew, but the name is Erev, right? It means evening. It's the time of day we're talking about, and it's a time qualifier, and you'll find it all over the Bible when people are referencing when something happened or how long something lasted. You'll see until the evening or on the evening something happened, right? You'll see the same thing with the word boker, right? Same thing. You'll see there's so many verses I could bring up. The Levite in Judges, right? When the Levite comes and stays with the man, it's been a long time. I can't remember who it was, but the Levite stays and he says, won't you? It's getting late, right? Won't you stay another night and wake up early in the morning and depart then tomorrow on the morrow, right? On the morning. That word, that's boker. That's the word that's being used there. So Exodus 12, you shall let none of the Passover remain until morning. And what remains of it until morning, you shall burn with fire. This word morning, trying to say, is boker. When you look in the Hebrew, that's the word. We'll find that boker is the name of the third part of the night, which belongs to the day, and that Erev, or Ereb, whatever, is the name for the third part of the day, which belongs to the night. So if we put the titles, the names of these time periods, and I'll touch on that when I'll come back to it. Put them on the screen. We have what you see. Okay, so I'll come back to this passage and I'll explain it using this graphic here. So let's examine Exodus 12 and Jubilees 49 side by side. Okay, so Jubilees 49, verse 12, it says, it is not permissible to slay the Passover during any period of light, but during the period bordering on the evening, and let them eat it at the time of the evening until the third part of the night. So there's a start and an end there. The start is the bordering on the evening. That is Erev in the Hebrew. That is, if you go back to the graphic, Erev, the third part of the evening, right after sunset. Okay, and it says eat it from then until the third part of the night. So you start at third part of the evening. Next comes the first part of the night, then the second part of the night, and keep in mind that these are 3-hour segments, right? They're 3 80-minute hours each. Okay, 3 80-minute hours in the first part, second part, third part. Same with the night, 3 80-minute hours in the first part, second part, third part. For total, you'll have 18 80-minute hours in a day, which is the same, 1,440 minutes. We're not adding or subtracting any time out of the day. It's the same amount of time, right? It's arbitrary how you decide to measure the time. You can measure it the way man does with 60-minute hours, or you can measure it the way heaven does with 80-minute hours. It doesn't matter. It's completely arbitrary, right? You can convert between these two times, okay? It's the same thing as metric and imperial, right? You know how big a cup is. You know how much is in this many grams, right? You can convert these. So it's what I'm trying to say is it's not matter. Let's not get hung up on how long is a day. It's 1440 minutes. We all know this, okay? So let's get back to comparing these two verses here. It says in Jubilees 49:12, it is not permissible. I've already read this, but you eat it starting the third part of the evening, continue through the first, continue to the second, and then right there at the third part, when the third part begins, that's the point at which it's no longer okay to eat the Passover lamb because Passover has ended and the next day has begun. The next day, in this case, being the first day of unleavened bread. See, the 15th day begins between, it begins at the end of the second part and at the beginning of the third part of the morning, of the night. It's of the night. It's called morning. It's called boker. It belongs it belongs to the morning. It belongs to the day, like the angel said. Let's go back to the passage. Exodus 12, it says, shall not you shall let none of it remain until morning, and whatever remains until morning shall be burnt with fire. So you can see that in Exodus, when it says morning, the angel of the presence in Jubilees 49 says that that point at which it's referring to is the third part of the night. And from that third part of the night, which is the morning, onwards, you shall burn it with fire. That's what it says here. So there are other verses we can look at to see that Erev is the evening, indeed, right? So we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is what the passage means because the angel tells us as much. In Jubilees 49, verse 11, it says, that is that which Yahuah commanded you, that you should observe it between the evenings. The angel has defined for us the meaning of the term between the evenings. It is exactly from the point of sunset up until the birds start chirping and the deers come out to come out to graze, and the dew is on the grass. It's the morning, and the morning is the beginning of the next day. So this is the point I wanted to share, and I think this answers our questions as far as how can we count, and it will help us to all get on the same calendar if all of Israel can understand this, you know, the divisions of the day, right? So I hope that you'll take what I have presented here, test it for yourself, look at the verses, compare it with other verses, take this understanding of time, compare it with other verses in other books, and see is there any scenario that happens, any example that's recorded in which it doesn't fit this model. Because as far as I can see, every single verse that I can find fits perfectly in this, and we can understand when the day begins and ends, and it begins after the second part of night. It begins on the third part of the night, the portion that was given to the day. Let's go see that verse again. He said, two portions are given to the day, they're given to the light, and the third part is given to the evening. Right? The third part up there, the third part, evening, Erev, of the third part of the day, it belongs to the night. And so the third part of the morning, Boker, belongs to the morning. Because we have to have the reasoning I can say that, it's a logical proof, okay? You have to have the 18 hours. You have to have the 40 minutes in a day. And so if you say first, second, third part of a day, and you also say first, second, third part of a night, the day and the night has to equal 18. That's how I can find the inverse and solve this. Okay, so let me know what you think. There's a few people I want to show this to. I won't mention their names here, but here's the video. So do hope you enjoy it.